Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is number 9 in our Treason series. You know, I was looking at our stack of documentation, and I have to tell you, we have not even yet, I thought we had covered quite a bit of material. We haven't even started. We've done 8 hours, and we haven't even started. Tonight is hour number 9. We're going to skip ahead in time. We're going to skip ahead in time to March 11th, 1992. March 11th, 1992, from the Congressional Record of the House. Page H1181, March 11th, 1992, Congressional Record of the House. That's page H1181. By Mr. Owens of New York. Mr. Owens of New York. House Joint Resolution 438. Joint Resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution of the United States, repealing the Second Amendment to the Constitution, to the Committee on the Judiciary. And we'll go to the Congressional Record Index, page 123, and you can see that it is duly registered under Firearms Constitutional Amendment to repeal amendment relative to the right to bear arms, House Joint Resolution 438, introduced the 11th of March, 1992. And on that day, when this legislation was introduced, on page H1168 of the Congressional Record of the House, March 11, 1992, I quote, "The Speaker pro tempore, Ms. Pelosi, under a previous order of the House, the gentleman from New York, Mr. Owens, is recognized for 60 minutes. Mr. Owens of New York, Madam Speaker, today I've introduced a resolution which calls for the repeal of the Second Amendment to the Constitution. The Second Amendment to the Constitution reads as follows. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Madam Speaker, is the Second Amendment still necessary in 1992? And does the Second Amendment, the existence of it, give the right to the manufacturers of guns, the distributors of guns, the fanatics who must have automatic weapons of all kinds, does it provide a right to them? Madam Speaker, I have been told that the Second Amendment does not guarantee that right, but it is because the Second Amendment has been distorted and is often misquoted to mislead the American people to believe that because the Second Amendment exists, we should not and we cannot regulate the manufacture, the sale, and the distribution of guns in the United States. As a result of the notion being promulgated that we cannot regulate the sale and distribution and manufacture of guns, we have a paralysis by legislators across the country and by the Congress. Repeatedly, public opinion polls have shown that the American people do want more gun control. They want more regulation of guns. Of course, a number one issue across the nation is crime and solutions to the problem of crime. Madam Speaker, crimes of all kinds I abhor, but crime which results in the death of individuals is of particular concern and should be of particular concern to all of us. I break here to tell those of you who may have tuned in late, these are not my beliefs. This is a speech read to the House of Representatives by Mr. Owens of New York, who introduced a bill to repeal the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America. And I continue. The recent tragic shootings of 2 young persons at Thomas Jefferson High School in New York City has renewed interest in some kind of immediate urgent action to deal with guns and the gun culture. Madam Speaker, 2 young persons, one named Ian Moore and the other's name is Tyrone Sinkler. They happened to live in my congressional district. The tense is important here. Thomas Jefferson School is not located in the district, but these young people resided in the 12th Congressional District. Somehow, their shooting has shocked even New York City, which has too many homicides and too many guns, despite the fact that we have very tight gun control laws in both New York City and New York State. The fact is, folks, they have the tightest gun control laws. This man is suggesting that if the federal government passes the same laws that have already been passed by New York, that this will somehow stop guns from appearing on the streets of America. I'm sure that you can see the absurdity of this. If the existing laws can't do it, what makes him think that repealing the second article and amendment to the Constitution will do it? What makes any of you think that you can do it? I continue. The fact is that these youngsters were murdered in cold blood in a school. The fact is that the young man who pulled out the gun and shot them has no fear of being caught and no concern about snuffing out human life and taking his punishment subsequently. Mr. Owens, are you telling me that the liberal view that the criminal is not guilty of a crime and should not be punished is now beginning to bother you? I doubt it very seriously. You're using your rhetoric as a ploy to pull some sympathy from those who don't understand what it is that you're really saying. And I continue. In addition to the two persons being shot that day, their lives being snuffed out immediately, another young person who was a friend of theirs went home and with a gun committed suicide, took his own life. Mr. Speaker, in the space of 5 days in New York City, there were about 10 shootings. About 5 people were killed with guns. More in New York City, which is highly visible. They got a lot of publicity, and all the world knows about it. But what my colleagues do not know about is that all around the country, in both rural communities and suburban communities, young people are taking their lives and taking each other's lives in large numbers. We know about the mass murders when automatic weapons are being taken into post office buildings and people getting revenge for various reasons have snuffed out the life of dozens of people. This is another lie, a blatant lie, ladies and gentlemen. None of those people were using automatic weapons. They throw the term automatic weapons around to scare people. An automatic weapon is a machine gun. You pull the trigger and it keeps firing until you let go of the trigger. In case you don't know. They like to scare people with that. The truth is, you're safer if someone is shooting a machine gun at you, an automatic weapon, than if they are taking steady aim with a single-shot rifle. This is amazing. Absolutely amazing. Mr. Speaker, I've been invited to serve as a moderator for a panel, a teleconference entitled Challenges and Choices, Violence in the Schools. This teleconference is sponsored by the National Association of Secondary School Principals Urban Services Office. It is going to take place next Wednesday. The brochure that was sent to me starts as follows. It relates to incidents where young people were murdered or young people were guilty of murdering people in schools. In Pinellas County, Florida, for example, an assistant high school principal was killed and another administrator and teacher at that school injured by students who were armed with stolen revolvers. You understand, folks? He wants to pass a resolution, ladies and gentlemen, to repeal the second article and amendment to the Constitution, and he's citing as examples all this ridiculous baloney. And I continue. These guys stole their weapons. Stolen revolvers, ladies and gentlemen. In Garden, Kansas, 2 teachers and a junior high school principal were killed by a 14-year-old boy with an automatic rifle. That's another lie. He did not have an automatic rifle. Very few people in this entire country have an automatic rifle, and I'm going to tell you right now that no crime is on the books that has ever been committed with an automatic rifle. You understand that, folks? If you don't believe it, go look it up. These are buzzwords to scare you. They're blatant lies. I continue. My colleague did not hear any headlines about this, and there are numerous other incidents that are taking place all across the country that we do not read the headlines. We do not see them on television. They are not in New York City with the media present to publicize it, but it is happening all over. The culture of the gun, the culture of violence. That's another blatant lie, ladies and gentlemen. The media jumps on every incident involving any kind of a firearms weapon, and this scumbag knows it. He knows it. The fact is, if you don't see it in the media, it did not happen. Do you understand? It did not happen. He He goes on to say the culture of violence has taken hold in this generation, which we could call the Rambo generation because they are fed by films and videos that glorify violence. And I agree with that. The Rambo generation marches on to the tune, the Pied Piper, Bobo Grits.